Just like in the title says, the worlds of gi and no gi are on a collision course. 2022 is the year that no gi is going to try and overshadow the gi, we feel. However, don't write off the gi just yet. Still plenty of life in the old dog yet. Myself, Hull T, Chase Smith and Corey Stockton here for this episode of the Grappling Bulletin to discuss some of the biggest news stories that took place over the last week or so in the world of grappling. But also, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the upcoming events as well, including ADCC trials and the highly anticipated IBJJF European Championships. So, first things first, Chase, why are you wearing a hat? It's not that cold, brother.
It's a little chilly, bro. You're always addressing my physical appearance the first thing out of the gate. Why is that, Hal?
I don't know. You got a fisherman vibe going on today, you know, kind of like the woolen sweater and the hat. Out catching some mackerel before the show began, right?
Yes, you'll pay for this. You'll pay for this.
But let's talk a little bit about the big story today, because we opened it with Grappling Bulletin podcast. It's there. It's a thumbnail. And if you went to the site and read the Grappling Bulletin article, as you should, Nicholas Meregali, no gi, Gordon Ryan wearing a gi. What is going on? Is this upside down world or what?
Yeah, I would have loved to see those training sessions. There's some clips on, I think, Bernardo Faria's Instagram, maybe the Fanatics page as well, of them doing some training there. And you have to wonder what that technique exchange has been like. It's a pretty cool scenario, though, right? Because Gordon has been very outspoken about liking Meregali's game, liking his approach, his attitude on the mat. You know, Gordon's not very complimentary most of the time, to put it lightly.
Yeah.
So for him to see some exciting stuff from Meregali is pretty cool. So I'm glad they got to meet. I think that might have been their first time meeting in person. And,
I think possibly, yeah.
Exchange some techniques. So, yeah, I'm not quite sure exactly what'll happen there, but I bet you it's pretty interesting.
Man, I got to say, I watched the video on Bernardo Faria's YouTube channel, and it's really cool because, Gordon shows some no-gi attacks from the back, and then Meregali shows some gi attacks from the back, and they talk about the technical similarities and the crossover and stuff. And it's like you said, I want to know what those training sessions look like. We saw like a brief glimpse, right? There was just like a very short clip of them rolling, technically rolling. They weren't like, trying to kill each other, but there was a moment where it's kind of cool, right? Because you saw Gordon in the gi defending like a lasso guard sweep from Meregali, and I wonder what it looked like vice versa. I wonder what it looked like because we saw Meregali in no-gi gear, what it was like for him going up against Gordon and his game, right? It's the kind of thing that fans dream of, right, Corey, is watching a session like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so many the techniques that both these guys are so skilled at, so just watching the kind of exchange of ideas happen in real time has to be incredible. I hope we eventually get to see it.
Well, we may, right? Because why would Nicholas Meregali shed the gi unless he had some kind of idea, some kind of design to possibly make a move to no-gi competition?
I could pull it up, but I want to say on his Instagram, Meregali posted that he was focused on no-gi this year. Is that am I remembering?
I don't think it was quite as definitive a statement as that,
well,
but
does he ever make definitive statements?
Exactly. He definitely left it open enough to interpretation that is in the mix. There's the only no-gi post really I could see was just no-gi training.
I could have sworn I saw that somewhere, but I don't know. We'll see what happens next.
We'll see what happens next. But if there's any year to do it, it's 2022, right?
100%. A
lot of people thinking about ADCC, right?
Yeah, that would be a shock if he made it in there. He's in Brazil right now. I think he's back from that trip from Boston. So trials are this weekend. We haven't seen all the updated names yet. There are some new ones that we're aware of, but he may slide in there. Or who knows? At ADCC, anything can happen, right? So pretty interesting stuff. By the way, though, Hal, just to roll this back a little bit, you botched that intro. We're talking to the double gold champ over here, Corey Stockton.
That is
How could you leave that off?
How could we leave that off? Well, we're going to hit some of the IBJJF results later. Maybe we could have brought it up then. Unfortunately, no highlight video. But big shout out to the Stockton Strangler back there.
Is that the top of your head? That's a great name. I like that.
How did it go? You competed at the Austin Open this weekend, right? First time in a while.
No strangles this time, but had a couple of golds. Had 2 successful matches in the gi division and then a successful match in no gi.
That's how we do here at FloGrappling. repping the team out there on the mean mats of the IBJJF Austin Open. That's pretty badass, dude. And when was the last time you competed?
I want to say March of last year, so Houston Open.
It's been a busy year, right?
Yeah.
It's been a busy year. So, but yeah, you feel good out there? Got the taste for it again?
Felt a little rusty, but yeah, it's always good to be back out in competition.
Cool. Awesome. Well, there we go. Highlight video next week, yeah?
That was basically the biggest news of the weekend. I just want to get that out there that this happened.
Drop your congratulations in the chat, FloGrappling fans, because we have the IBJJF Austin Open champion right there. Brown Belt Masters 1. Boom. So let's get into it. Grappling news roundup. Some of the biggest stories from the last week or so. First one that will hit is, of course, Lucas Hulk Barboza. Quite interesting. Not too many people realize this, but Hulk had already fought MMA 3 times. And this was way back, 2019. Sorry, excuse me. No, 10 years ago. not 2 years ago.
That's not
10
correct.
years ago. 2009, 2010.
Wow.
He competed as a teenager. And this was years before he really went all in on jiu-jitsu. 2015 was the year that he got his black belt and he really went hard, won the IBJJF World No-Gi Championships, and since then has been a world-class black belt. Really stumbling there in the major tournaments. But it seems like after a couple of years competing in IBJJF, ADCC, Superfights, you name it, seems like the plan is going back to MMA.
Well, he's been teasing it for a little while, right? I want to say even as far back as 2020, he had made some allusions to an MMA career and maybe a comeback, if you will. So the news came out over the weekend that is it signed with PFL?
Signed and date announced, everything. Yeah, he will fight on February the 25th in Florida. And he's going to fight Troy Green, who is 4-1.
Very cool.
Yeah, and it's going to be at 170 pounds.
Yeah, that's what blew my mind when I saw that. That's a very lightweight Hulk, let's say.
Look at the photo right here. We got this. So Atos have been steadily growing their MMA team, right? We'll talk about that in a second. But of course, pictured here with fellow Atos teammates, black belts, Ari Farias on the left, Davi Ramos on the right, Lucas Hulk in the middle there, and all three, of course, now going to be active in the MMA scene. Davi is a UFC fighter. Ari Farias has had plenty of success on the domestic circuit in Brazil, and now Hulk making his American MMA debut after having fought in 2011, on local events in Brazil. So the Atos team, this is the first guy that we've heard of to actually mark a date for an MMA fight, but he's not the only one who's talking about it, right?
Well, no. I mean, of course, we got Andre Galvao. That story came out earlier this year about signing with One. But then we've seen sort of everybody maybe take a look at those footsteps from Galvao. We've seen the Rotolos messing around with some of the gloves on. Ronaldo. We've seen Rafael Aguirre has been doing some of the training. So
Kynan
mentioned it. But like you said, Hulk, besides Andre, is the first to sign with a promotion and look to kick that career off again.
Yeah, we'd heard that he was making sort of plans to go back to MMA, but yeah, a date is just less than 4 weeks away. So that's going to come around really quick. So excited to see what Hulk can do in MMA, and yeah, if it does pave the way for even more Atos black belts to transition through, this could be a big year for those guys. Next up, big story is that Saulo Ribeiro is going to be added to the ADCC Hall of Fame. Now, Saulo Ribeiro, of course, needs little introduction. One of the most accomplished competitors, both gi and no-gi, a veteran of the sport for probably over 25 years at this point. And Saulo being introduced into the ADCC Hall of Fame, he has kind of something of a unique legacy in ADCC, right, Corey?
Yeah, the only competitor to ever compete in ADCC in a gi. Not his biggest accomplishment, but it is right up there with maybe one of the most memorable.
It's a moment of it's one of those standout moments in the history of grappling, right? When you have Saulo, who, as you can see, a two-time champion, 2000 and 2003, that he took on Jeff Monson, the fearsome wrestler who was already an ADCC champion at that point, and Saulo elected to go out against Monson wearing a gi jacket because he thought that it would give him the added friction necessary to be able to control the beast that was Jeff Monson. It's like a bold move, right?
Yeah, it's definitely unusual. Like we said, the only person to ever do it at the World Championships. I think I've seen it actually at trials before.
Right, we have.
But
recently.
But yeah, that's true. But in any case, yeah, it's definitely a ballsy move, and well, it paid off, I guess. So
yeah. So big news there. ADCC Hall of Fame continues to induct further members. I think there is actually a couple more names to come, but that Hall of Fame is growing because, of course, a very rich history there, ADCC, with over 20 years of events. There's plenty of big name champions to draw upon. Fight to win, 192. Alex Enriquez defeated Talita Alencar in the main event of Fight to Win 192 in her hometown of Atlanta, Georgia. Of course, Alex Enriquez is an Atos black belt training under Bruno Frazzato right there in Atlanta. And it was a typically scrappy match, as is pretty much any match involving Talita Alencar.
Shocking. No, this is what we've come to expect from Talita, and as well as Enriquez. You know, she is fantastic. Coming out of Bruno Frazzato's camp, really active competitor. If you've watched any of the recent open tournaments on FloGrappling, you've probably seen her there. She does quite well. But
Both
Talita,
gi and no gi.
Gi and no gi. But Talita is an incredible test, right? You know, world champion, very accomplished, very experienced, and you know, a credit to Enriquez for taking home the win. Understanding the rules, that big slam there may have been the difference maker, right? Fight to win slams are not only legal but rewarded as an attacking move. And when it comes down to a game of inches, that might have been the key, you know?
Yeah, it was definitely a close match. You know, it was there was a lot of scrappy wrestling, and you know there was some near submission attacks, but nothing really too threatening. Definitely the slam is a scoring move, but I think this is a big victory for Enriquez. You know, you have to consider, of course, that she took silver at the recent ADCC East Coast Trials. She is a pan champion, both gi and no gi. But, you know, she just beat Talita Alencar, two-time IBJJF World No-Gi champion. That's no joke, right, Corey?
Right, and excuse me, I want to say this is Alex's black belt debut. She just got promoted in December, so this is a huge win for her coming straight out of that. Yeah,
making a statement in her Fight to Win black belt debut. And taking the title belt as well from Talita, who's been established for some time as a champion in Fight to Win. Looking forward to seeing more of Alex. I fully expect that we will see her return for the ADCC West Coast Trials in Las Vegas in April. Because, of course, you know, the ADCC East Coast Trials in New Jersey, the winners of those divisions, they receive free passage and entry and such to the West Coast Trials. But to qualify, you got to turn up to Vegas and you got to win there. So she'll be back hungry, right?
Exactly, and let's point out too, real quick, that those champions from the East Coast Trials, that's only because Tom DeBlas is sending them. You know, that's a unique scenario. So yeah, just wanted to point that out. Credit to Tom for making that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about the IBJJF results, because there were two pretty significant events from over the weekend. There was an event here in Austin, Texas, and there was another in Rio de Janeiro. Corey, why don't you kick us off? Why don't you tell us a little bit about, so you were there, so you saw it better than anybody, but tell us about the most significant or the standout results from those events this weekend.
Yeah, so let's start with the Austin Open, where maybe no surprise to anybody, Ronaldo Jr. won double gold, right? That's something that he's kind of known to do at Opens, is just kind of go in there and run through some divisions. Also, impressively, Adam Benayoun won the no-gi open weight. I believe he had nobody in his...
Adam's a lightweight?
Yeah, that's right. He was
wow.
a lightweight, won the open weight division, defeated Austin Orenday and Mihab Rahavitz.
That's pretty good. I haven't seen much from Adam for a while now, actually, right? Of course, black belt under Ryan Hall, very good grappler, actually, very technical, but haven't really seen too much of him compete. Maybe this is him getting back into the water.
Yeah, I think the last time we saw him was at Nogi Worlds. He may have just missed the podium there, but certainly good to see him at an open and doing well in the open weight categories. Two rookie black belts made their debuts, Austin Orenday and Osama from Atos. Both of them won their divisions. Big one, Hiron Gracie made his brown belt debut. Hit a nasty Kanto choke in the absolute division.
I saw that on IG, actually. That was really nice.
I haven't caught that one yet.
Yeah. Man, it was actually really cool. And Hiron took double gold, right?
He did take double gold, yes.
Wow.
As did Sean Yadamarco, who won the no-gi brown belt divisions.
Very nice. What were the standout results from Rio? Because there were some pretty big names competing down there this weekend, including to my surprise, Roberto Jimenez.
Yeah.
Because Roberto, I remember him telling me that actually not that long ago that he was, going to take some time off from the gi. He was going to be one of those guys who was going to focus on no gi more. And I was a little bit shocked to see him competing in the gi over the weekend. He did both.
Yeah, especially
he did gi and no gi, right?
Especially given the proximity to the ADCC trials, it was
a week away.
Surprising to see Roberto compete in the gi, and maybe the lack of recent gi training kind of cost him because he ended up losing in his division in the semifinals and lost in the absolute in the finals to Hirazuchi. Hirazuchi won both his division and the absolute. Jimenez ended up bouncing back in nogi, where he won his division with 4 submissions.
Nice.
Yeah.
4 submissions in 4 matches in nogi. That's Roberto, right?
And maybe a sign of things to come if he indeed chooses to go down to ADCC trials in Brazil.
He signed up. Yeah, we'll
There
get
it
into
is.
that in a minute. So, that's really cool. Really cool. Nice to see jiu-jitsu coming back. I really, really love the fact when we have multiple events in multiple cities, multiple countries, all on the same weekend. I love that. Cool. Well, that's the biggest news from the grappling world. I think it's time to talk now about a major event coming up in the next couple of weeks. We're only a few weeks away from the IBJJF 2022 European Championships. Now, this is the first IBJJF European Championship since January of 2020. Yes, it's been over 2 years without a major IBJJF event on European soil, and things have changed a lot in that time, right? The entire landscape of the grappling world has changed a lot in those last 2 years. But this is an opportunity for the Europeans to show what's been going on because they haven't had quite the same opportunities to compete and to showcase that same development as maybe North America or even South America, right?
Yeah, that's a great way to cue this up because there are several different sort of storylines going on in this. One of them being there are Europeans that have not seen any major tournaments in close to 2 years. So that's huge. And, you can tell from the registrations that they are chomping at the bit to get back into the swing of things, right? It's a largely European-dominated tournament this time around. Of course, that may stem from some difficulties traveling internationally, but I also think it speaks to the excitement that we're seeing from the European crowd, let's say. But also we have some recently promoted black belts making their way in that may have not been able to compete at some of the major tournaments as well. So we have like this generational sort of confluence going on where we have some of the seasoned black belts taking on the next generation. But maybe when I say next generation, they may have been promoted for, let's say, a year at this point, but they haven't been able to test their skills at the highest level.
Right.
So there's a lot of different things happening, making this a pretty interesting tournament. And, I think the best way to maybe kick things off is to talk about some of the athletes that we're all very excited to see. Let's go ahead and, play some clips here. I think number one for me might be Fionn Davey. Fionn kind of captured everyone's hearts and minds at the 2020 European Championships.
Winning the absolute.
Exactly.
That's huge.
And she's back to, defend her title. We see her clip here taking on Jessica Flowers in the open weight.
Man, what a size difference. That's what I love about the absolute, right?
I mean, I think it's the ultimate example of what jiu-jitsu represents, right? It's technique over strength.
And Fionn's a honey badger, man. She goes straight at her opponents, right? She's never had a problem in doing the absolute, and she's never had a problem in taking on opponents much bigger than herself. I got to say, that's one of the things I think that has won her so many fans, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like out of many of the athletes in our sport that had their careers kind of disrupted and put on hold, she's especially affected being kind of stuck in lockdown in Europe because she was on such a tear in 2019 and 2020 before things shut down, obviously.
It wasn't until late last year that we really saw her back on the road, right? Mm-hmm. She managed to compete in... she actually competed in Brazil, I want to say.
And then, WNO, of course.
And then, of course, Nogi Worlds, WNO. She managed to kind of rack them up in kind of quick succession. But yeah, it wasn't easy. So good to see her back.
Yeah, another athlete that I think is near and dear to many people's hearts, especially in Europe, is Tommy Langacker. And one of the biggest moments from any of the coverages that we've been a part of in Euros was this moment here against Herber Santos. Corey, you weren't quite on the team yet, but I know you've seen this before. What did you think when you first saw this clip of Tommy and Herber?
This is one of my favorite clips ever because it's all of the storylines, right? It's the European versus the Brazilian. It's the heavyweight versus the lightweight, and ultimately watching Tommy's inner Viking come out when he ends up getting this submission over Europe is just kind of shocking.
Yeah, I mean, the crowd went absolutely wild when Tommy won. You know, we've talked about this a lot about how Euros was one of the loudest tournaments that we've ever been to. Imagine the volume after he submitted the giant. You know, especially the bad boy Herbert Santos with those. That was
crazy.
A big moment.
It was it was maybe actually one of the loudest moments I've ever experienced.
And there's always a lot of Norwegians there as well, so they were going crazy.
It was nuts. He's in a pretty stacked division there at middleweight. We have also worth mentioning making his black belt debut. Finally making his debut. Tarek Hopstock of the Tarek Plata fame. I think he was a brown belt for 4 years, maybe more, to be honest.
Yeah.
It'd been a while, so I've been waiting for him to make his mark there at black belt. But a lot of interesting registrations there. But again, largely dominated from the European contingency. Bradley Hill is in that vision as well.
Yeah, and this is interesting, right? I think something worth discussing about how there are Brazilians signed up. Mm-hmm. There are very few North Americans signed up. Very few. So this is more than ever in the history of the IBJJF European Championships. This is more of a true representation of a European Championship than we've ever seen before, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's not by any sort of exclusivity implemented by the organization. It's just the nature of this, or the state of today, the state of the world today. And so I think it's, we talked about this a little bit on the last podcast, but it's really exciting because it doesn't just necessarily give people that haven't succeeded in the past a chance to win because the A-level world champs are not in every division, but rather just a different group of athletes, right? Maybe they haven't even been at black belt for very long. So we're going to see a lot of different storylines and new champions crowned here. So,
man, I love to see it. I really do. Of course, you know, I'm a European myself, so you know I have something of an affinity to watch Europeans come through and perform well on the world stage. And it's always been tough to travel to Europe and to watch these guys competing in their backyard and sometimes in their hometowns, and to get put up against a top-seeded absolute monster, multiple-time world champion in their opening round match, and it can be rough, you know, and it can be demoralizing for these athletes sometimes. So, you know, rather than giving them like a free pass or anything like that, quite the opposite. This is going to be a very hyper-competitive tournament, I would call it, but it's going to be much more of an even playing field amongst the European talent, and I feel that this is an opportunity for somebody to make their name, to make a big statement at this tournament, and then to possibly carry that on to success on the world stage. I'm going to pull out a couple of names that I'm looking forward to competing at the black belt divisions from Europeans specifically. Marcus Phelan of East Coast Jiu-Jitsu from Dublin, Ireland. He's in the featherweight division, as is from Ukraine, ZR team, Yaroslav.
Oh yeah, the fearsome Yaroslav.
Yaroslav Blasko. You know, people like to call Kolabate Ice Cold, right? That's his nickname. You never seen Yaroslav compete. That guy, stone cold killer, absolutely impassive, the strongest. I love it. Who else we got here? There are a lot of Europeans.
We've got a clip here that I pulled up of Adam Wardzinski, one of the most beloved,
famous,
right? And
pound for pound, possibly the best European black belt on the scene.
This is a great moment here, taking on the veteran and very, very dangerous Demetrius Souza here of Alliance. And really, again, this is a great moment from the crowd. Adam's patented butterfly guard.
Good old-fashioned.
Yeah, he really makes it work at the highest levels where few can. And he ends up getting the submission here in this match, which was a great moment for him. And I believe he's looking for his first European title. He's gotten on the podium before, but I don't think he's claimed gold at black belt yet.
That is a good point. Yeah, I think we could see Adam potentially... see how things go, but he's a strong candidate for double gold as well. We'll see. There are a couple of black belts based from the UK that I recognize as well. Taylor Perman from ZR Team UK, who's competing at middleweight, and then in the heavyweight division, you've got two Gracie Barra black belts. You've got Jacob Zakowski and Thomas Bratcher, and both those guys representing Gracie Barra Birmingham, black belts under Braulio Estima. Man, I think that this is going to be a pretty competitive lineup at Euros. I'm excited to see it. Any names that you stand out for you, Corey?
As far as just the entries go, we can't leave out two of DreamArt's best, right? Eric Muniz and A-Rod are both registered, both reigning world champs. and coming in hot, I'm sure, after their successful run at Worlds last year.
This will be their first European championship as black belts as
So
well.
Eric, last time, if I remember correctly, in 2020, was still a brown belt, right?
Yeah, I think that is correct. Yeah, because that was the last time he competed. He was promoted that year to black belt later.
Anna won gold in 2020 as a black belt, I believe.
Was she a black belt?
She was.
think
Yeah,
so.
she did.
Okay,
Yeah,
my
yeah.
mistake then, yeah.
Yeah, but still, I mean, I think that both those guys, any division they enter, they're going to be favorites to win. And I think Eric could actually also is, a very, very strong candidate for double gold at Euros. And they are, man, they're probably two of the, not the only, but they are two of a very short list of Brazilian competitors who will be competing, or high-level Brazilian competitors who will be competing at Euros.
Yeah,
right?
especially making the journey, right? Many of the
Right.
Brazilians that are registered are permanently based somewhere in Europe. So,
Right.
yes, they do stand out in that sense. I'm super excited, actually, for Super Heavy, where Eric Moniz is finding himself. We also see Felipe Andrew in that division,
Nice.
which makes a great clash there. And some great European talent, too. Like we have
Cool.
Eric Bregman, I forget how you say his name, but he's had some great standout moments at European championships before. And now that I'm seeing it too, we have Trator in there.
Ah,
Another
slid
Brazilian
in.
based in the United States making his way over there. So
Man, these women's
Super heavy,
divisions
very
are looking
stacked.
pretty stacked as well, right?
Oh, yeah.
The lightweight division is looking really good. Of course, you've got the aforementioned Fionn Davis, but then you've also got Natalie Ribeiro in there as well. And you've got a lot of really good competitors competing in the women's divisions, full stop, man. There's some big divisions of 8 competitors and more. So, yeah, this is going to be a stacked tournament. And you two going to have the pleasure of going to Italy to be on the ground for this one.
that's right. We also have Trey coming along. If you guys have seen Trey in the vlogs, he'll
If
be
we
there.
bring it back from Mexico.
If he might just stay down there at the World Totals forever. I don't know. That's a different topic though. But we're very excited to be going back to Europe. Of course, as we said, first championship there since 2020. It's been too long, and I'm looking forward to seeing some old faces, some new stars, and it's sort of such a crucial tournament for the IBJJF season because it sets in motion some of the storylines that we're going to follow through all the way to World Championships. So
Yeah, and of course, don't forget that PANS is coming up, right? That's going to be in April. Brazilian Nationals in May, and then Worlds TBD, but still, we're expecting it to be around about June. So next couple of months are going to be big for the gi.
very excited. Can't wait.
Cool. Well, as is mentioned in the title of this week's show, the worlds of gi and no gi are colliding. And two big names from the world of no gi who are on a collision course. Andre Galvao and Gordon Ryan. Scheduled to compete in September at the ADCC 2022 Superfight. And we caught up with Gordon and Andre just last week. We started putting out some videos on the website, which you may have seen, talking about, well, a little bit of everything, right? Why don't we start things off? Let's hear from Andre Galvao, and then we'll go straight into a clip from Gordon Ryan, just to kind of set the stage about where these guys' heads are at before we get into the discussion.
Can you clear the air and tell us, are you 100% committed to make September 17th and 18th?
Yeah, I am committed, It's because people wants to see, people likes drama. They want to see more, But man, this is it. I say yes, I'll be there, I'll be there. I will be there, September 17th, right? I'll be there. It's already on my schedule, And just to clarify to all of you, we will be there, not me only, right? We as a team, we will be there, okay? We'll be there.
To defend your title one more time.
We will be there to defend our title one more time, the 5th time, the 5th time. And again, give our best, give our best. And not just me, but all my students too. Probably we're going to be the biggest team in ADCC. We have Cade, Ty, Josh, Lucas, Kaina. I hope Rafaela get invited because she deserves it, right? Rafaela Guedes. We have Bia Basílio. She trains in Brazil in affiliate. JT Torres, Probably I forgot someone, But there's 8 already. But yeah, who else? You have someone in mind? No? I think that's it. I think that's all, yeah. We have everyone, we just don't have on 66 kilos and over 99. But we will be there. We'll be there, giving our best, enjoying the moment, having fun, and pass through all the process. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's not really impressive anywhere besides the fact that he has good cardio. He keeps going, and that's really about it. His jiu-jitsu's not great. He's a really good quality of movement. He moves his body well. He can move fast in and out. He can move fast side to side. He can invert. He can do all the stuff that you need. But technically, in the standing position, he doesn't look great. His hand fighting is not great. His shots are okay, not great. His submission wrestling is terrible. He basically has no submissions of any kind. Guard isn't great. Passing is atrocious. He's mediocre everywhere besides the fact that he's tactically good, physically intimidating for most people, and that's pretty much about it.
Two very different messages.
You took the words right from my mouth.
In those
two different
videos,
things
yeah.
happening.
Galvao affirming that yes, he will be at the ADCC 2022 Superfight to defend his title against whoever it might be. Of course, we're very much looking forward to Gordon Ryan doing that, but he's said that his health concerns are, still an issue. He's working on them. That he anticipates that he'll be there, but who knows? He's got to get back on the mat and training hard for that. But Galvao said, "I'm there," and he's bringing a squad.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of differences if you guys have seen the multiple clips he put on the site and social and stuff. The real difference to me, besides their attitude towards competition in general, is that Galvao also is running a school, bringing a team, and he's very, very proud of that. And it's
a big team.
A big team, but it directly correlates with his training as well. Like, those are the guys he's getting ready with, too. So it's it must be pretty cool to be a part of that squad and to help build each other up to roll to something like ADCC and be in your best form ever, right? So Galvao makes sure to always highlight that fact that he's going there with his team, with his crew. Or Gordon is a man, an island unto himself, and somehow, I mean, he is just about this performance, his own performance. Don't get in his way because he's coming, to claim both the Superfight and the division, which is a crazy separate storyline that we have going on here. So
yeah, I mean, just looking at the list of confirmed competitors so far, you have 77, you have Davy Ramos and Cade Ruotolo and JT Torres, all representing Atos. 88, you've got Hinger, you've got Ty Ruotolo, and we're expecting Lucas Hulk Barboza to do 88. You've got Kainen under 99, and then you've got Bianca Basilio under 60, and we're expecting Rafaela over 60. Of course, that's a lot. That's a lot of Atos competitors all showing up. They could potentially sweep this entire thing. And of course, Galvao is going to go there. He's not in the coach's chair. He's the player coach, He's going to go out there and he's going to be with his guys, but he's going to be on that mat shortly after them, taking on the most dangerous man in submission grappling right now, Gordon Ryan. And Gordon, those were about as strong a words as I've ever heard Gordon say. And believe me, I've heard a lot of things from Gordon. But that statement about Andre's jiu-jitsu was some of the most disparaging statements, disparaging words I've ever heard somebody utter about a future opponent. Right?
I mean, that's Gordon's game plan, always playing these mind games, showing as little respect as he has to. Corey, what did you make of the comments from Gordon there?
Yeah, I think it's exactly like you said, Chase. It's a lot of it. A lot of it is kind of mental warfare, right? He's trying to get into his opponent's head, and that's something that he's done over and over and over again successfully on Instagram. Is just kind of overwhelm his opponent from every direction before the match, and in this case, in a 9-month lead up to the match.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that Gordon's doing it. It's no act, right? And Gordon's very open, in his feelings. He doesn't hide anything at all. He's a complete open book. And he is 100% behind that statement, that he genuinely doesn't feel like Andre's jiu-jitsu is good enough to beat him. However, I watched with interest last night the Lex Friedman podcast, the episode with GSP, John Danaher, and Gordon Ryan. And in that podcast, Lex, a very different audience to this podcast. I'm sure there's some crossover. But Lex does ask the question, Gordon, explain to us who is Andre Galvao and tell us about the super fight coming up. And Gordon himself says it. There is no small amount of respect there. He might not respect Andre's jiu-jitsu. He might not respect him as a person after their personal confrontation. But he does respect the fact that Andre, in Gordon's words, is the most winningest champion in the history of ADCC. And those accomplishments don't happen by accident. Galvao has built a legacy in ADCC that stands far above anybody else. His accomplishments in the ADCC Superfight history stands alone. But Gordon he respects that, but he wants to end that, and he wants to take over.
Yeah, this tournament for Gordon represents a real opportunity to become arguably the GOAT of ADCC, right? Right now, Galvao is the winningest, right? You could argue that since many of those are super fight wins, it may not be the same, let's say, as Marcelo Garcia, but Marcelo still holds more than Gordon as far as total titles accomplished.
Right, pure gold medals.
Right.
Yeah.
But with Gordon doing both the super fight and his division, well, he kind of can leapfrog a little bit here and really make a strong claim, especially depending on how he does it, right? If it was anything like his 2019 performance, well, then he has a very strong argument for claiming maybe to be the GOAT of ADCC. But it all depends on what happens this year.
Very good point. It does depend how it happens. If Gordon really does turn up and does the over 99 kilogram division on the Saturday, and then does the absolute, does the super fight on the Sunday. Of course, he wasn't allowed to do the absolute as well. He kind of wanted to. He wanted to do both divisions and the super fight, but the ADCC guys were like, hang on a second. Easy now. We gotta let somebody else win that absolute so that whoever wins the super fight has an opponent 2 years from now. Gordon just wants to take everybody out because, like I said, he wants to take over that legacy, right? He wants to establish himself without argument as the greatest in ADCC. And the truth is, as good as Gordon is, his 3 gold medals don't yet put him there as the greatest in the history of ADCC. But September offers an opportunity for him to do that. So, a lot on the line. A lot on the line indeed. What else did we learn from those clips? Did anything stand out? Because you guys were both kind of like chopping up the long interviews and pulling out the tastiest morsels. What was the standout moments for you?
Well, I think for me, it really was how much Gordon values this attempt at becoming the GOAT of ADCC. That was something he referenced throughout, and that he wants to have a just dominant experience. He's looking to have a 100% submission rate, that he thinks that no one's even close to his level of jiu-jitsu, and that he could, just basically walk through everyone. But yeah, that's what he's targeting. He's not just targeting this particular title, but what it means as a whole for his legacy. Legacy,
is that word again. Corey, how about Andre's interview? Anything stand out for that?
Yeah, and I'm going to hit the idea of legacy again because Andre, he looks in the interviews very, very happy with where he is, and I mean that he's confident with his training. He's not thinking very much about Gordon, it seems, at all. He's thinking about his legacy and his team and his preparation and what he and all of his guys are going to be doing together and what they can all accomplish together. And he seems like he's in a great place for it. He keeps on saying, 7 is a good number. 7 is going to be as if he's assured that he's going to win that title, and he's confident and happy moving forward.
7 is a very lucky number indeed. So yeah, I'm sure he'll be working hard for that one. I'm just amazed that looking at the divisions, the number of Atos competitors confirmed, and they're just stacking those divisions, right? They are qualifying and they get invited and returning as champions. And man, this the Atos crew, you're going to be coming in force at ADCC in 2022. But that ADCC Superfight, man, couldn't be more excited for that. Speaking of ADCC, let's talk about the upcoming ADCC South American Trials in Brazil. We've got 2 events coming up. We've got one coming up this weekend in Balneário Camboriú, and then another the following weekend in Sao Paulo. The 2 ADCC South American Trials that offer an opportunity for competitors from the Southern Hemisphere to qualify for the ADCC World Championships. And this tournament, while maybe not as as big in terms of participation numbers as, let's say, the recent ADCC North American trials were. That these trials are very, very high quality. And we pulled out a couple of the key names who will be competing at the 2022 South American trials. And they're not just Brazilian trials. It's important to note that these are open to any competitor from South America. And so you do have other nationalities represented. Of course, majority of them are Brazilians. But let's take a look at some of the big names. We can start off with, let's say, work our way up in ascending weight order. Take a look at the 66 kilogram division right here. Fabricio Andre, Ruan Alvarenga, Diego Pato, Diogo Hayes, Rodrigo Franchioni. These are just a handful of the names, the standout names that are signed up for this division. And let's talk about these. So, Ruan Alvarenga returning to ADCC after a pretty impressive performance at the 2019 World Championships. He was a trials winner there for that one, and he's looking to go back. But this is a very competitive division, Chase.
Yeah, I could be more excited to see Pato return to competition so quickly. He was absolutely on fire all throughout 2021, winning everything, gi and no gi.
Yeah.
Just so much fun to watch too, a finisher's mentality.
Pretty much unstoppable, right? Yeah, very few people were able to derail Pato.
So I think for me, he's my favorite going into this event, but there's a lot of game competitors. Fabricio Andre, for example, world champion in the gi. I haven't seen a ton of Fabricio Andre no gi.
Me either.
But I that's why I'm curious. That's why I'm intrigued, because I know he's got the skills, but how's it translate?
Right. Well, I mean, training with Mika Galvao on the daily basis in there in Melky Galvao's academy in Manaus, you have to think he's going to be pretty handy when it comes to no-gi jiu-jitsu. But it is a question mark. We genuinely aren't quite sure what to expect. And I'm sure his no-gi game looks very different to his gi game, right?
You would think. You would think. But he's definitely in the right spot. I have no question that he's adequately prepared. Corey, I know you were studying some of the names on this list. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, for the same reason that I'm excited to see Fabricio Andre, I'm excited to see Diogo Hayes. Very similar, that train in the same camp. We don't see very much of them no-gi, but they certainly have the potential to be firecrackers in this division. Rodrigo Franchioni, I can't believe he made this division, to be honest. He's down from the weight class we normally see him at, but I think that given his strength and his aptitude for wrestling, he could be a real threat in this division too in the ADCC rule set.
Yeah, we got some comments coming in the YouTube chat here. Jose Becerra, big Pato fan. Not alone. I mean, to be honest, he's my favorite for this division, but by no means a lock. This is a very competitive division indeed. Fight Sports sending big squad to these trials. There are 3 athletes of note in the 66 and plenty more at 77. Let's bring up 77. We've got, this is by far for me the biggest name. All eyes on Mikael Galvao. Mika Galvao at the top. But take a look at some of these other names. Lucas Lira, by the way, I'm sorry, that is a mistake. He's actually competing at under 99. That has been since updated. But Mika Galvao, Servio Tulio, Roberto Jimenez, the Ecuadorian American, Fernando Cartalaggi, in case you weren't aware who that is Felipe Pena's younger brother.
Very nice.
Very nice. Very, very capable black belt himself, who hit the podium at the ADCC trials back in 2015. I was there to watch him. Very, very dynamic, lightweight athlete with an amazing wrestling game. JZ Cavalcanti, Lucas Protasio, Checkmat, Italo Mora, Majid Hage, and Fabio Caloi. Lots and lots of really strong names in the under 77. Who stands out for you?
I mean, like you said, everyone's waiting for Mika to see what he can do, and I like the way he matches up with just about everybody in the list of names we have presented just there. You know, watching him versus Roberto would be insane. Him, Servio Tulio, ADCC veteran, Majid versus Mika would be very exciting. But I think everyone has pinned Mika as the guy to beat. But that's a heavy expectation to carry at such a young age. He's been excelling since forever. But
still. It's kind of interesting, right? Because I almost feel like for many people, it's a foregone conclusion. They're like, yeah, of course Mika's going to win. Oh, easy now. Look at that 77 kilogram division. That is almost like an invitational bracket right there. Just those names alone that we pulled out for the screenshot. That's a powerful list of competitors right there. And yes, Mika is definitely a front runner to take that division, but by no means is it a foregone conclusion, right, Corey?
Absolutely not. Servio Tulio is an ADCC trials winner, an ADCC vet. Roberto Jimenez, he's going to be itching to make his way into ADCC, and I could see him being a substantial threat for Mika. There are a couple other names in that division that really stand out that could put Mika to the test.
Yeah, I gotta say, man, this is one of those divisions that whatever happens, some of these matches are going to be absolutely unmissable. Mika Galvao versus Roberto Jimenez. Sign me up.
Yeah. I definitely have my notifications turned on from when Mika steps on.
Yeah.
Flow Arena. You can get clued in right when he steps on the mat.
88 kilogram division. This for me is a very interesting division. You got a real mix of names in this one. Some intriguing names, including that of Pedro Machado, who recently took double gold, at the IBJJF World Championships as a brown belt, then promoted to black belt shortly after. Pedro Machado, though, interesting to see how his success could translate to no-gi, because he's not exactly the biggest name from the no-gi scene on that list, especially when you stack him up against competitors such as Charles Negromonte, who's only competing once, even though we have him on there twice. Doesn't have a twin. Andre Porfirio, Diego Ramalho, Baby Monster, Valdir Araujo, and Rafael Paganini. So there's some pretty strong names on that list.
Yeah. I'm super excited to see how this one turns out. For me, there's a little bit less of a front runner in this category, and mostly just a well-rounded group of athletes with differing strengths. But a lot of them have not done a ton of ADCC events, so that, of course, is a factor as the rule set and the format is very unique and scoring is very different than what many of them are used to. So I think that'll be an interesting factor throughout all the trials, but especially in this division here.
Yeah, I think you raise a really good point that a lot of these guys, we've never seen them compete in ADCC rules. And we believe that they probably have the tools to be able to succeed, but it does raise a lot of questions. I like to see how they handle things like heel hooks, things like the wrestling, and so on. A lot
just
different
scoring.
in
The takedowns are totally different.
Totally.
Guard pulling penalties, all that stuff.
Under 99 kilogram division, and just a reminder, these aren't all from the first trials in Balneario Camboriú or the second in Sao Paulo. There's a mix here of some are signed up for one, some are signed up for the other, some are signed up for both. But here's just a couple of names from the under 99 kilogram. Enrique Cardozo, Salomão Ribeiro, Thiago Sá, João Costa, and Lucas Lira. Man, some powerful athletes in the under 99 kilogram division. They get stronger and stronger as you go up in the weights. But take a look at this over 99 kilogram division, because this is, for me, this is potentially very explosive. You have an ADCC 2017 veteran in the over 99 kilogram division in Victor Honorio. Bring up the list of names for us, Wood, if you please. But also backed up by some exciting names such as Roosevelt Souza, Wallace Costa, Javier Zaruski, and these two guys who are complete dark horses for pretty much anybody outside of Brazil who really closely follows the Brazilian scene. Antonio Acef and Pedro Alex, a.k.a. Bonbon. Both of these guys, absolute monstrous heavyweights representing GF team. Teammates who recently closed out the Rio Summer Open in the no-gi divisions. Man, that big boy division right there looks pretty scary.
Yeah, if Bonbon doesn't give you indication of the power behind that man, then I don't know what will.
Yeah, these are huge guys. I mean, if you ever stood next to somebody like Roosevelt,
I have. He's a giant.
They're massive. Yeah, this I'm looking forward to seeing these guys go head to head. It's gonna be a huge clash for sure. And then we got some women's divisions as well. You got the sponsored athletes such as Julia Alves, Victoria Vieira, Veda Toscano, and backed up by Brazilian no-gi national champion Gabi Fector as well. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be really interesting. I'll be there for the both of the ADCC trials in Brazil, along with me, Mike Sears, and a handful of other members of the team. So we'll be there to kind of catch the action. Because make no mistake, and we've talked about this in the past, that the winners of the ADCC South American trials, the trials in Brazil, by no means guaranteed to go on and succeed at ADCC, but they have an overwhelming trend of performing well and even going on to win gold at ADCC World Championships, right?
Yeah, I mean, the quality of the competitors is extremely high at the Brazilian trials, and I think that we are seeing a shift though, right? If we look back 5 years ago, then yeah, you would see pretty much only Brazilians on the podium at ADCC, but the quality has steadily risen in the U.S. and abroad as far as jiu-jitsu and success at ADCC in general. So I don't know, this might be the first year where we don't necessarily see that trend where Brazilian trials winners automatically do extremely well.
Well, here's my opinion as well. I'm interested to see how the no-gi game has caught up in Brazil, because yes, Brazilian athletes still, if you look at the pure results, have more success in ADCC tournament than non-Brazilians. But no-gi has evolved a lot over the last couple of years, and that gap isn't quite as wide as it used to be. And if you look at the biggest names in ADCC, the majority of them, even if they are Brazilian, they're no longer based in Brazil. Felipe Pena is one of the few. Michael Galvao, they are some of the few high-level Brazilians still based in Brazil who are not just competitive, but are extremely successful in no-gi tournaments. So I'm interested to see how the next generation of Brazilian athletes handle themselves in these high-level no-gi tournaments, because we know that the Brazilians based here in the States are competitive, successful, some are even dominant, but the ones in Brazil, there's always been that question of how far behind they are, and this trials will give us that answer, I feel. Right, Corey?
Yeah, I feel like this is what makes athletes such as Pato such a threat in their respective divisions, is that we've seen Pato introducing some new school techniques into his game, right? He's got that vicious false reap. He's been working on his wrestling at a wrestling clinic. Things like that might make him, for example, stand out among some of the Brazilian athletes who train no-gi in preparation for ADCC trials and then not very much after that.
I think he posted a photo of doing the Mikey lock as well when he announced, which I mean, there's some debate, of course, around the title of the Mikey lock, but it may have been sort of a subtle call out to say, I know all the new tricks too. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Yeah. And be ready, guys, because I'm going to take home the gold at ADCC trials. Yeah, that's exciting for me. Really exciting. Can't wait. So let's talk about upcoming events, because of course we talked about Euros, we talked about ADCC trials, but we have a Emerald City event on the horizon as well. A £145 tournament. Bring up this graphic if you would, please, because these are just some of the names confirmed. This is the 8-man tournament. Still, one man, a qualifying tournament winner to be confirmed, but a pretty solid lineup right there. Top row, left to right, Keith Krikorian, Gabriel Souza, Gianni Grippo, John Calistine, bottom row, left to right, Pedro Serrano, Damian Anderson, and Joshua Cisneros. Emerald City going down in Atlantic City, and this is an 8-man this time. Last time they ran a 16-man. They're going to run an 8-man tournament this time. EBI rules. Corey, you've been to the last couple of events. What do you make of this one?
Yeah, they bring some standout grapplers. Real quick, this coming up is a 155-pound tournament, but we're seeing the return of a lot of the guys from the 145-pound tournament.
Thank you.
Yeah, and including guys like Gabriel Souza, like Gianni Grippo, Keith Krikorian. There's Damian Anderson. There are a lot of athletes coming back to this tournament that have put on dominant performances in the last couple of Emerald City events.
Oh, well, yeah, there we have it. £155 bracket with a nice $10,000 on the line as well, right? Man, I gotta say, Damian Anderson impressed me so much.
Yeah, it was a breakout performance for him,
but
for sure.
They all had amazing moments. Keith Krikorian, of course, silver medal at the recent ADCC trials. He looked phenomenal at Emerald City. He's built for that EBI rule set as well, right? Because, of course, he can finish in the regulation. Oh, my God, there's Gianni's leg lock. Oh, every time goes through you. But Gianni won the last bracket, 145, right?
Yeah, he ended up winning, defeating Kennedy in the final. He beat. He had a bunch of wins in that tournament, and really all of these guys, every one of these 8 men have to be a favorite. Well, the 7 men listed have to be considered a potential favorite in this division, depending on kind of the seeding. There is one competitor left to be announced. That will be the winner of the finishers qualifier.
Nice. There we have it. It's not easy to pick a favorite in that lineup either, right?
No, like Corey mentioned there, the bracket will really determine, who we think might be a favorite, but definitely some great scraps all around. You can't really go wrong with that lineup.
Yeah, I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see what happens. Emerald City going down. What's the date for that one? March 12th. Watch it only on FloGrappling.com. That's it from everything's show. That's it. Everything from today's show. Any final words before we bounce?
No, we'll see you guys next week. You won't be here.
I
You'll be
won't.
in Brazil.
Oh, shame. But you guys can take care of it while I'm away.
That's right. But very, very busy time. We have trials this weekend, trials next weekend, following weekend rather, and then, of course, Europeans kicks off. So can't miss it.
It's going to be huge. We'll see you next time.